Now, once again, Raymond Arroyo.
Welcome back to The World Over. For the last 36 years, he brought us two of television's longest-running live specials, honoring America's most important holidays. Jerry Colbert was the founder of Capitol Concerts and executive producer of PBS's annual National Memorial Day concert, as well as a Capitol 4th, the July 4th concert. Each year, he'd help us focus on the true meaning of Memorial and Independence Day by honoring those who serve and have sacrificed for their nation. Jerry died last week at the age of 74. I talked to him recently about the inspiration for the Capitol Concerts, his faith, and just what it takes to put on these star-studded affairs. Here's my exclusive interview with the late Jerry Colbert. Jerry, tell me about this year's Memorial Day concert. What do you have on tap? And why does this continue to be such a relevant and important part of America and an important part of our nation?
Well, I think that this is the memorial service for the United States, and it's become that over the years. This is our 27th year, and we have a group of stars which helps the Beach Boys and Renee Fleming and Gary Sinise and Joe Montana. They're all on big shows. And but more than that, there's a void there because there used to be the parades in New York and parades all over the place. And I think part of it was Vietnam War, part of it was other reasons. But these things all dropped off, and we started forgetting about the veterans and the dead and what the sacrifice had been made. Yeah. So when the symphony came over here and was doing these concerts, I thought, let's turn this into a national event. We're going to start at Arlington Cemetery and talk about that. And, then we have a story of a mother who lost her son in Afghanistan, her only son. It's very poignant, very moving. And then a gentleman who went to Vietnam, and he was twice wounded, the second time very badly, and he lost his leg above the knee and almost lost the other leg and was in the hospital 14 months. But he had a great spirit, and when he finally got on his feet, he went to law school and he went to work then at the Justice Department. They made him a federal judge, and for the last 13 years, he's been up at Walter Reed visiting these kids who amputees and bringing, support and comfort and listening and helping. Yeah. And then we have a great story from World War II, from the Battle of Anzio, which most people don't know anything about. It was the third biggest battle in Europe during World War II, and it was a sharpshooter from Pennsylvania who came, and this guy was incredible. They had 200 men in the unit, only 6 of them survived. Wow. And it's a powerful story. He got the Congressional Medal of Honor.
Well, one of the things I love, and I've been privileged, and my family, to be at your rehearsals many, many years and watch this event, and to watch a real veteran like Charles Durning, I'm thinking of, tell the story of his comrades. And these are such moving moments. I mean, not only for those who lived through it, but for those of us who are much younger, and even my own children. It is sweeping America up in its own story and remembering the cost of the freedom that we all enjoy every day. Right. And it's and to wrap that in music and to give people also, you feel bigger when it's over, I guess.
Oh, that's great.
Do you have a sense of that?
Oh, I feel great when it's over. And then we get thousands of emails, we get thousands of tweets and Facebook. And I go up in the summertime when we go to Cape Cod, and I sit there and read 400 or 500 of them. Wow. Because they're saying all these different things, and they're telling you these wonderful stories.
Of their own lives.
Of their own lives and what happened when they watched the program. And there was a woman wrote us an email at 6 o'clock in the morning, and her husband had been in the Korean War, and she had never heard his stories, 50 years married. And they stayed up all night, and he told her everything that had happened to him. Wow. And she'd made him a couple of pots of coffee, and now she said it's dawn and he's finally sleeping. And it's the first time I ever knew what my husband's been through.
Wow.
So that,
Well, the event gave him permission to tell his own story.
Right, yeah.
How beautiful.
So when we have that, it's really moving to me. And we had 2 brothers who were in Iraq and Afghanistan, and they did 3 tours, and one of them got very bad PTSD, and he came back, and he committed suicide right before Christmas. And the brother we told the story with Joe and Gary, and the brother was so moved, he takes our tape now, and he goes around and he talks to soldiers about mental health and about not committing suicide. And he's a marvelous young man. So there's story after story like this every year.
Yeah. You see the magnified effect of what you're doing every year. I want to unpack your story a little bit, Jerry, because people tune in every year. They watch a Capitol 4th, which is one of the biggest viewed events on television and certainly on PBS, and then the Memorial Day concert, but they have very little knowledge of the man behind the scenes. And you've been doing this, certainly this is the 36th year for the Capitol 4th.
Right.
I want to take you back. After college, you decide to go and work as a missionary in Iraq.
Right.
What drove you to that?
Well, I was a member of the Sodality in those days, they called it, and they taught us to meditate. And I began meditating on Scripture, and then I had a fabulous course on the New Testament. And I came to the Last Judgment. And the Last Judgment talks about, what have you done for the least of thy brethren? And when you do, you're doing it for me. And I had a chance to work in different business things with family, friends, and everything. And I just thought, well, this is my life. What am I going to do in my life that's good? So I went to Iraq, and they had a program there, the Jesuits, the JVC they call it now, the Jesuit Volunteer Corps. And, you know, it was a whole nother world, but we educated the Chaldeans, and actually the rich Muslims were paying for it, they didn't know it. But, and I started to think, what are we doing here? But now when I look at it, we help so many Christians, and Christians get out of there, and we have a reunion every 3 years. These guys come from all over the world. Wow. And their whole lives have been changed and touched because of what we did. So, you know, you never know the good that comes out of these things. And then
you come home, you work in Chicago?
And then we came home, my wife and I, and we worked in the inner city there in Chicago, and with gang kids, and which was an eye-opener. I got a master's degree in urban affairs, but I realized that communications could have a bigger impact than trying to work in urban affairs, because without the money you can't do much, you know. So I went to New York, and I was part of the Center for Communication at Fordham, and Marshall McLuhan, the great media.
Great Marshall McLuhan, unbelievable.
Right, and being at his feet and all the other things we were doing in media.
When did it dawn on you that it would be a good idea to have a national concert, a national event for these, particularly these two holidays? I know Memorial Day came later, but the Capitol 4th, how did you get involved in that?
Well, the minute when the symphony decided to have this program done, they went up to Capitol Hill and they said they needed money to help support the players and keep it going. And so they gave them 3 concerts at the Capitol. And I said, wouldn't this be a fabulous thing to have a national event with the 4th of July? And, you know, John Adams said, you know, that this is a special day when there should be pomp and ceremony and
fireworks.
And the greatest day in America, and we should celebrate it every year. And so we've become the major national 4th of July for the country. And then a few years later, Memorial Day, and I thought, well, gee, there's nothing going on Memorial Day. They've canceled the parades. People are forgetting about the soldiers and the sacrifice and the dead, and you know, we've had 1.5 million people die in wars in America. And for every one who has died or has been badly wounded, there's 9 family members. So it's a big, big group that really, you know, the words of the Beatitudes, you know, that we should comfort those who mourn.
Yes.
And so that became my mission.
Do you see this Memorial Day concert as a continuation of that same spirit of mission and service that you showed earlier in your life?
Yeah. Yeah, I meditate almost every day on Scripture, and I'm trying to listen to what we should be doing, you know. And I feel like I'm getting a lot of grace and support to do this, you know. And so there's a great quote. Bill Moyers and Sister Wendy did a show together.
Yeah, Sister Wendy Hilliard.
Oh, yeah, what a pistol she is.
Oh, yeah,
and
she's fun.
so they got talking about the great masters in art. And they said, you know, what they were trying to do and what they were trying to communicate. And she said, well, they're really, in the religious side, we're trying to communicate a sense of prayer and a sense of reflection for the people. So that's what I'm trying to do with this program, is to get people to reflect and to remember the sacrifice, to then reach out to some of the people who need their help, and that as a nation we remember and we are grateful.
Jerry's son Michael will carry on his dad's work by continuing to pay tribute to our nation's troops, vets, and military families, and by celebrating America's freedom and independence each year here in Washington. May Jerry Colbert rest in peace, and our prayers go out to the entire family. Well, that's all the time we have. Until next week, the show continues on Facebook and Twitter. You can like me on Facebook, follow me on Twitter, and be sure to tune in for our Inauguration Week special. Some incredible guests will join us, and I'm keeping it a secret. Until then, we'll be scouting the world over for all that is seen and unseen. On behalf of the staff and crew of EWTN News, thank you for watching. I'm Raymond Arroyo from Washington, D.C. Bye now.